Coca-Cola is widely regarded as being a symbol of America, originally invented in the 1800s by renowned doctor John Pemberton. This is the remarkable story of how one of the most recognized global brands in the world was created by a dying Civil War veteran to battle his own addiction. When the Civil War broke out, he tossed away his lab coat for a button uniform and joined the Army, where he was given a life-threatening medicine to lessen the pain for his final few hours after being caught in the line of fire. He amazingly pulled through, however, and used his close call to create the $74 billion brand that is Coca-Cola. So, first, we will begin with how a pharmacist turned a war veteran and how he invented a drink to cure his own addiction. From lab coat to button uniform. John Pemberton was born in the little Georgian village of Knoxville in 1831, and he was raised in Rome. He earned his license to practice Thompson medicine when he was 19 years old. It was well renowned for detoxifying the body of toxic substances, using the concept of botany and herbalism. However, it wasn't respected at the time, and many people had doubts about the procedure. John, nevertheless, opened a company that specialized in materia medica, or ingredients used to create medical cures. But when the Civil War started, he soon had to trade in his white lab coat for a button-down Army uniform. After the start of the Civil War, John was promoted to first lieutenant. But 3 years into the battle, he got caught in the direct line of fire and was slashed with a saber. His doctors gave him morphine to numb the pain in his final hours, since they didn't think he could survive. But John proved them wrong by miraculously surviving, and from that point on, getting back on his feet was only a matter of time. Innovate or die. John fought for a better life once the Civil War smoke dissipated. He relocated his family to Atlanta and became a senior member of a pharmaceutical company. The media praised it as one of the nation's most impressive labs, and John became Atlanta's most well-known doctor. But following his near-death experience, he developed a morphine addiction. He searched for an herbal treatment since he could not see a cure for what had become a regular habit. At the time, he had heard fantastic things about a beverage called Vin Marini. It was claimed to cure any sickness and contained red wine and ground-up coca leaves. That inspired John to create his own version in an effort to kick his morphine addiction. He made what he termed Pemberton's French wine Coca out of coca leaves, red wine, and cola nuts. Coca leaves have a stimulating effect and can reduce appetite, thirst, exhaustion, and pain. Though one leaf only contained 0.35% cocaine, it was simple to obtain in the United States. According to certain medical professionals and pharmacists, it may be able to treat opium and morphine addiction. So John was convinced that his French wine Coca could treat a variety of illnesses, including headaches, sadness, and anxiety, in addition to addictions. The treatment became popular right away and was widely used. However, the demand by itself wasn't sufficient to sustain the company. When John encountered a problem, he was obligated to change the direction of his brand new company, which is how Coca-Cola was created. A fatal loss. In the same year, Pemberton's French wine Coca was released for sale. Atlanta declared it would follow other U.S. states in outlawing alcohol. Fearful that it would mean the end to his new remedy, John raced to come up with a new formula. When he took the wine out, he discovered that the cola nut had made it extremely bitter. He therefore substituted synthetic caffeine for the cocoa nut, added sugar, citric acid, vanilla lemon oil, and extracts of orange, nutmeg, and coriander. Frank Robinson, John's bookkeeper, then proposed that he alter the name to Coca-Cola. John followed his advice and introduced the fresh remedy, but Coca-Cola, a year later, was a complete failure. But Frank regarded this differently than John, who perceived it as a failure. Since the company was new, the loss was expected, but his optimism inspired him to develop yet another brilliant concept. John was cautious about advertising the solution through banners, streetcar signs, and store awans, but Frank persuaded them it was a gamble worth trying. Thankfully, he wasn't mistaken, and Coca-Cola gained popularity around Atlanta. So John and Frank demonstrate that facing a situation head-on rather than giving up can help you reach new heights of achievement. A strange twist. John's health deteriorated in an odd turn of events as Coca-Cola sales increased. After receiving a stomach cancer diagnosis, he withdrew in order to try and get healthy. He felt fear for his family's future and needs, so he took the challenging choice to sell the company's stock. But it didn't mean he didn't have high hopes for Coca-Cola's future. He saved a third of his shares for his son, Charles, because he thought it would one day become a popular drink in the country. Frank then took responsibility for finding the ideal investor while John remained in bed. He met Asa Candler, a wealthy and successful businessman, through a professional connection. He said that Coca-Cola wasn't a worthy endeavor when Frank approached him, but Frank knew better. Rise in sales. The company's mission convinced Asa to purchase the rights to the Coca-Cola name and recipe, and as Frank had foreseen, he wasted no time in starting the business. Along with increasing sales to more pharmacies and grocery stores, he also had a revolutionary notion. He distributed tiny pieces of paper that customers could exchange for a drink of Coca-Cola at soda machines. They were regarded as well-liked meeting places and gathering places at the time. It was the first time in history that a business distributed what are now known as coupons for free samples. John's vision for Coca-Cola was crucial in inspiring confidence in his staff, and subsequently in the person who would assist develop the company's brand. John's final desire. Sadly, John never got to see his vision come to fruition. 2 years after Asa began expanding the business, he passed away due to his morphine addiction. Because of Charles's addiction, Asa seized charge and started the Coca-Cola firm. He oversaw the expansion of Coca-Cola sales to every state in the U.S. and eventually to Canada. However, he was unsuccessful in creating the demand in Europe, as anything other than beer, wine, or water was regarded as appropriate for youngsters in Germany, while purchasing an American beverage was offensive in France. One day, 2 lawyers named Joseph Whitehead and Benjamin Thomas walked into the Asa's office and they proposed bottled Coca-Cola. Asa thought it was a foolish idea, but he believed that if they succeeded, they would sell more syrup, and if they failed, he wouldn't lose a penny. After that, Joseph and Benjamin located additional investors and built a facility to bottle Coca-Cola. It became one of the country's earliest franchised enterprises, and customers became dependent on Coca-Cola bottles. The Coca-Cola company eventually made the decision to develop a contour bottle, which was more distinctive and challenging to imitate, so that customers would know they were purchasing the genuine product. Years later, more bottles of Coca-Cola were sold than were sold at soda machines. So Joseph and Benjamin's supposedly ludicrous notion gave birth to Coca-Cola's iconic packaging and helped ensure its success going forward. Conquering the world. Asa left the company the year after Coca-Cola created their Contour bottle, as he was elected the mayor of Atlanta, and he left the company to his children. 3 years later, they sold it to a group of investors for $25 million. It was the largest financial transaction in Southern American history at the time. A banker by the name of Ernest Woodruff was one of the investors in the agreement, and it was he who helped the company go public that year. He made Coca-Cola's manufacturing process more efficient and made sure that quality was upheld wherever it was manufactured. Soon after he retired, he persuaded his son Robert to take over as company president. Under his direction, the business eliminated the trace amounts of cocaine from the recipe and then introduced open coolers with metal tops, 6-packs, and automatic fountain dispensers. It was also successful in completing Asa's unfinished business. Coca-Cola created demand for the beverage in Europe by marketing, giving away, and selling the beverage there as a fun, refreshing import. Some bottles had a gold foil seal on them, making them look like champagne magnums. Later on, Coca-Cola was given away in large quantities when the American Olympic team traveled to Amsterdam for the 1928 Summer Olympics. Coca-Cola is currently recognized as a national symbol and is deeply linked to American culture. It is also, after Nike, the brand with the second highest global recognition, as more than 200 nations serve approximately 2 billion servings of its beverages daily. This is the tale of how a pharmacist turned war veteran and his successors built Coca-Cola as a successful brand of $74 billion. So what's your opinion about his unbelievable story? Please let us know in the comment box. For more inspiring videos, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.